As you know, we're on March 6th, Philadephia Singers and Relash and Orchestra 2001 are joining for a concert which features a piece by Philip Glass, Persephone, which was composed for us. And then the next piece in the program will be two of your Lauda. 22 and 23 is what they've finally decided upon for unaccompanied choir. And then finally, last, it'll be Steve Reich's You Are Variations. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your vocal writing, because it's, well, first of all, I think it's wonderful and exquisite, but how would you say that, or how would you explain your kind of migration, if you will, towards a lot of vocal writing from the very beginnings of your composition? I just wondered if you could address that a little bit.
I guess if I first got into writing vocal music when I did my first opera, Medea, which was done with Robert Wilson. It was originally going to be done at the Fenice in Venice in '82. Eventually that was cancelled, but it was done in Lyon and Paris in '84. And I found myself writing a lot for the human voice and for choruses too, but these were operatic voices. And it was about 3 or 4 years after that I was approached to write some pieces for the Hilliard Ensemble. And I then became much more closely involved with that very special kind of voice, the early music voice, the kind of voice that we can have lots of different choices in terms of the kind of vocal production, you know, how much vibrato, very accurate tuning, what kind of intonation system you're going to be singing in, Pythagorean, equal temperament or what. All those things I learnt about, and I enjoyed working with them. And I worked with them for about, on and off, for maybe 10 years. And that got me writing a lot of vocal music. Initially this small-scale a cappella work, but I've gone on to other things. I've done other things with, now I have two singers in my ensemble, one of whom, John Potter, was with the Hilliard at that time, and the other, the soprano, Anna Maria Freeman, is with the Trio Medieval, which is a terrific group of Scandinavian singers who you've had in Philadelphia, who are absolutely terrific. So I'm very close to singers. My father, in fact, actually was an amateur bass baritone. I mean, he died when I was 9 years old, but I still have vague reminiscences of his singing. And so one thing has led to another, and I found myself writing more and more vocal music. I've now written 3 full-scale operas. And if I had a free choice of what I'd like to be doing, what I'd do at any given time, it probably would be writing for the human voice. But when I was working in Latvia, something happened which made me want to include other people, especially in this kind of context where I'm working with an organization like one of those choirs, and I did the same thing in Estonia too. And that is that I went to the first rehearsal with the Latvian radio choir, and they were going to be rehearsing a piece of mine which is called 3 Poems of Cecco Angelieri, which I'd actually written for a Hilliard summer school in 1997. And because I'd written it for this particular context, there was a separate part for everyone. So there were about 51, 53 solo voices which form into groups. And so the groups, when we're going to rehearse them and record them, were placed all around the outside, the edge of the church, St. John's in Riga, so that as the sound moved round, little by little, the audience was enveloped in the sound. And I went there and I saw the groups were actually laid out, and I saw there's one group at the front which I didn't recognize. That wasn't, there's a group of 3 basses, and they're not in my piece. So I thought, okay, I've arrived early, so I just said, I'll wait. And they started rehearsing this piece, and I heard this music, and to me it was probably the most beautiful music I'd ever heard in my life. I didn't have a clue what it was. I'd never heard it at all. It was incredibly slow, unbelievably consonant and beautifully in tune, with sort of phrases which went on forever, with a strange kind of reverberation, which was not just the whole. The composer had actually put in things where maybe like 4 soprano, he would hold a chord on way into the next one to give the impression of reverberation. And it was like, almost like Arvo Pärt meets Richard Strauss. It was just this very rich chromatic harmonies, but with that sort of sensibility I found in Arvo's work. I found afterwards it was by Silvestrov, a piece called Diptychon. And I was so knocked out, I said I would like other people to hear this. And so I thought I'd put that on the album. I also put a piece by Artus Maskats as well, a terrific composer. And so from then onwards, I decided if I work with a another kind of culture like this, I would include something else. I did the same thing when I worked with the Latvians as well, with Toivo Tulev. And I think it's important because, A, it shows that I'm not just taking what they have, not just taking it off the shelf in a kind of a Disney-like way, oh, let's have a bit of that, a bit of that. But really, I'm respecting their tradition and the way they do things and bringing something of that to the wider world. For me, text is the most important thing. I spend a long, long time looking for texts, reading, and if something strikes me, I'll make a note of it. I won't necessarily be looking at something specifically for a particular task. I mean, sometimes a text I'll find by accident. The text I used for these 3 poems of Cecco Angelieri, I didn't know Angelieri's work. He's a very minor, rather odd comic, rather sort of scurrilous kind of character from the 13th century. But I came across his poems because I had some friends. I was eating with them in a restaurant in Venice, which happens to be the best fish restaurant in Venice. And one of my friends said something in Italian to this guy, to the owner, and then he replied. It turns out there's a call and response in these poems of Cecco Angelieri, and I was knocked out by them, and so I used those for these poems. And then I got more into this kind of 13th century Italian. When I started writing madrigals, and I'm on my 5th book of madrigals now, I started looking at texts which had been used by Renaissance Italian composers, and so I've written a lot of Petrarch, massive amounts of Petrarch now, and some of the pieces I'm doing at the moment will be to Petrarch texts as well. I just have to find Petrarch a completely virtuosic, unbelievably wonderful poet who has such incredible cleverness as a writer, but great, great poetic soul and lovely, lovely ideas and images. I just find him a fantastic author to set. And then